By the hoary hosts of Hogoth, it's Doctor Strange, the trippy, psychedelic, not-actually drug-fueled adventures created by the reclusive objectivist Steve Ditko, who, at the time I began writing this, was not dead. Rest in peace, Mr. Ditko. This video is dedicated to you! So, released in 2006, written by Brian K. Vaughan, with art by Marcos Martin, this is Doctor Strange, The Oath.
Doctor Strange, you think you know how the world works? What if I told you the reality you know is one of many?
This doesn't make any sense.
Not everything does. Not everything has to.
The book opens up in New York City, inside a nearly empty clinic waiting room. Anya Corazon, aka Spider-Girl, and Iron Fist sit around. Iron Fist reads a magazine as Anya begins to ask him a question, and he says, "Yes, I'm Iron Fist. No, I don't know where Power Man is. We're partners, not a couple." And Anya's like, yeah, I know. So what happened to you? I pulled my hammy fighting a bunch of ninjas. You? I got hit with a literal mace. Luckily for me, Spider-Man swung in and saved me. He gave me this joint's address. I'm pretty sure my family has healthcare, but, it's hard to explain this to a regular doctor, you know? Hey, don't sweat it. This is where all the masks in New York come to. You wouldn't believe the stuff I've... Suddenly someone swings the door open and shouts, "Please, somebody help us." That's gonna hurt my throat to do that voice. And the voice is revealed to be Wong, manservant, bodyguard, and best friend to Sorcerer Supreme, Stephen Strange, whose body hangs limply as blood seeps through his coat from a wound. Iron Fist and Anya look up in shock as Linda Carter. No, not that one. The night nurse tells Iron Fist and Anya that they'll have to reschedule their appointments. Night nurse helps Wong carry Strange to her operating room, and Wong tells her that their home was burglarized, and that his master confronted the intruder and was shot, while Wong was out shopping. Night nurse asks what the guy's name is, and then, from above the body of Stephen Strange, an ethereal voice says,
"That handsome devil is Dr. Stephen Strange, and unless we work quickly, he's going to be a handsome angel."
Cut to some fancy home in New York. A villain named Brigand stands in his completely red tracksuit with accompanying red duffel bag as a mysterious figure in an all-white suit asks if he broke into the Sanctum Sanctorum. Brigand says, "Hell yeah, I did. I had a harder time breaking into the Baxter building last year." "What's that I hear you say? I'm an avid reader of the FF, and I don't remember Brigand breaking into their building." "That's because Brigand is a villain made specifically for this story." Then, the white-suited man asks if he was able to get the elixir without encountering Strange, and Brigand tells him, "Oh, I encountered him all right. He's deader than dial-up." White Suit Man freaks out and says that there is absolutely no way a shitty villain like Brigand could kill Strange. Then Brigand pulls out a Walther P-38 and says, "This is Hitler's handgun. Herr Führer used it to blow his brains out. I lifted it from some other magic guy. Anyway, firing a silver bullet from this thing causes some serious negative mojo. He's not a werewolf, you imbecile." "Whatever. So what are you gonna do with the elixir now? Drink it? Sell it?" "I'm going to study it, Brigand. And if my tests confirm my suspicions, I'm going to pour it down the drain." Back at Night Nurse's clinic, Linda freaks out about Strange's astral projection. She calms down and asks for his blood type, and Wong tells her that Strange is B positive, and all servants to Masters of the Dark Arts carry universal donor. Then she asks about his medical history and if he's had any major surgeries, and Strange says, "Just one." Then he recounts to her his previous life in the medical world. He used to be a surgeon who was a huge dick. Then one time he drove drunk and crashed. His colleagues were able to save his life, but not able to restore his hands. So he went to Tibet and studied under the Ancient One, and later became the Sorcerer Supreme. Linda, as she's operating on Strange, is like, "Seriously? You call yourself Sorcerer Supreme, and you say you used to be arrogant? So she works on his wound as they chit-chat, and Strange makes fun of her little cape as part of her Florence Nightingale fetish. And she's like, I'm not sure why anyone with his own little slave boy would be making fun of other people's fetishes.
You will address Wong with respect, nurse.
Wong says that he shouldn't defend the one who failed to save his master, but Strange says that that's enough of that talk. But Wong tells him that it's all his fault, that all his trouble began when Strange learned of Wong's disease. Flashback time. Wong places some books on a shelf in the sanctorum as Strange calls out to him. He walks into the same room and says,
I was looking for my cloak and I stumbled across this. It's a prescription for time lazar. Wong. This is a targeting agent for brain tumors.
Wong apologizes and says that he had hoped to keep it hidden until he had found a replacement for himself. And Steven frantically asks Wong what he's talking about. Wong says it's a very rare and aggressive disease, and at best, most he has to live is no more than 3 months. Strange stares at him and says,
No.
He races up to Wong as his hands begin trembling uncontrollably and says,
Those men are amateurs. I can operate on you. We can fight this. Damn it!
Wong says that he's ready to reach his end, and Strange is like, cut it
with the Zen crap. How are you, physically?
Wong says that he has the occasional vertigo, but other than that, his body will appear healthy as ever until the end. Strange says that there won't be an end. Then he tells Wong to grab his coat, because they're going for a walkabout. Out in Chinatown, Strange and Wong walk down the street as Strange reads an occultist book about a location of a hidden artifact somewhere on Manhattan Island. Specifically, in this little store. Strange is hoping to use it to enter a pocket dimension to find a magical elixir that has the power to erase what troubles the mind of man. Strange and Wong walk around the store when some thugs enter and prepare to beat the shit out of them, and Strange obliviously grabs one of those little good luck cats and begins an incantation or something as Wong easily defeats the muggers. Strange is able to open up a portal and he turns around and says,
Okay, Wong, I'm all ready. Where did all these men come from?
Then he reveals his true outfit and leaps into the portal, where he finds a massive cat thing, monster, horrible creature floating within a dimension of endless green. Back at the clinic, Strange explains that he captured the elixir and survived the encounter more than a month ago. Also, that her sutures are quite lovely. Then Night Nurse asks if the elixir actually worked when Wong falls to the floor. Wong says he's just had another dizzy spell and that he'll be fine. Linda asks why Wong is still sick, and Strange says that he wouldn't prescribe anything before he tested the safety and effectiveness. But before he could administer it, the elixir was stolen. Then Strange awakens in his real body, and he says that the elixir was not what he had anticipated. It's not a remedy for a single illness. It's the cure for cancer! At White Suit Man's laboratory, he also realizes that it's a cure for cancer. Then he talks to his assistant, I guess, and tells her that he needs to speak with the overlords. At the clinic, Strange gets up and puts his clothes on as he thanks Linda, and she says that he can't just check himself out, and Steven asks why the hell not. Night Nurse says, because I literally just operated on you after you got shot. Flashback time. Brigand just literally walks right through the fucking door of the sanctum, so Strange attacks him. Then, Brigand swings from the chandelier, and then he aims Hitler's handgun as Strange puts up a magical shield. Then, Brigand shoots him, and the bullet goes straight through the shield and into Strange's chest. Strange prepares to leave the clinic and hunt down Brigand, the glorified bike messenger, and retrieve the elixir, but Linda tells him that if he puts himself under any more stress, then they'll both die. Strange tells her that
if we can recover the elixir, we'll be able to end cancer around the world. I'm willing to risk my health for dividends like those.
Then Night Nurse says, fine, if you insist on leaving, I'll discharge you on one condition. I get to come along.
I appreciate your desire to play superheroine, but I'm not looking for another partner. I'm afraid I've always found gaudily clad magician's assistants to be rather tacky.
She then tells him that she's his primary caregiver, and if he so happens to pop a stitch in the field while Wong is too busy having a brain aneurysm to fix it, who's gonna help him? And Strange is like,
Okay, yeah, point taken. But if you join us, I can't keep referring to you by what sounds like the title of an adult film.
Then she says, "You're the world's greatest paranormal detective and you can't figure out my real name? What gives? Sherlock."
There are more pressing games afoot, my dear Watson.
Wong asks where they begin, and Strange says,
In the most uncharted and foreboding realm of them all. Cut to
the Bronx. It's an incredibly foggy night as the trio walk down the desolate street in search of a certain building. Linda begins to question whether or not they've already passed it when they arrive at the laboratory of Dr. Jonas Hilt, where Strange had the elixir tested. Flashback time. Dr. Strange tells a man who can't afford his services that he won't help him, and he leaves his office to find Dr. Hilt in the hall. Hilt tells him that the man he just declined is a beloved figure in Greenwich Village and a community activist. Then Stephen interrupts him and tells him that his skill outweighs any bad publicity they might get. Seriously, what the fuck is wrong with your eyebrows, Strange? Holy shit, look at them. I wasn't gonna say anything earlier because I felt bad, but Jesus. Hilt says,
Come on, Steve. You have time to help them all. Just spend one less day at the golf course. Whatever happened to that guy who volunteered at Brooklyn ER? He learned that not even he could save everyone.
Later, after his wreck, Strange lies in his hospital bed as he is introduced to Dr. Nicodemus West, the man who is the reason Strange still has his hands. Nicodemus introduces himself and says that he is a great admirer of Strange. Also, he has heterochromia. Then West says, I know you'll never be able to hold a scalpel again, but with enough therapy, I guarantee that a day will come that you'll be able to shake my hand.
What did you just say to me?
You murdered me, you myopic amateur! You murdered me!
Jonas Hilt has to restrain Strange from attacking Nicodemus as he sulks out of the hospital room. Meanwhile, a patient of the hospital looks on. Back in the present, Strange and his companions arrive at Jonas's office to find it completely ruined. And then Night Nurse finds Jonas's body. And then Wong slumps to the wall in a daze, and Strange looks around the room as his hands tremble and says,
No, I'm done letting my friends suffer.
Linda tells Strange that Hilt was shot with the same caliber weapon he was, as Strange begins to perform a magical ritual and opens his third eye. He finds evidence of someone remotely covering the tracks of the intruder, and Wong ponders who could be behind this, and Strange tells him,
Only a fellow student of the Ancient One could have orchestrated something like this. Mordo.
Later on a train, Wong informs Linda of who Baron Mordo is. He was a student of the Ancient One who later taught Strange, and then he became evil. He was a villain. Wong says that he thought Mordo was dead from cancer or something, and Strange says that, hey, maybe it wasn't as terminal as they thought it was. Then Strange puts his clothes on and opens the door to the train and says that this is their stop. And Linda informs him that they are above the Harlem River and that she is definitely not jumping. Then Strange takes her hand and says,
The firm footing of rational thought has its place, Watson. But when dealing with the enchanted, one must take the occasional leap of faith.
And they all jump out of the train towards the river as Linda screams. And she continues to scream until she finally opens her eyes to find the group in a big black room with a single door protected by a security sigil that Strange can't get past. And as Wong is about to bust the door down, Linda pulls out a bobby pin and says that she can get them inside. After a successful lockpick, Strange is shocked and says,
You should wear your hair like that more often.
They enter the room cautiously as a robotic voice blares,
Foreign bodies detected. Execute.
And 5 Stark Tech droids attack them. And Strange shouts,
By the hoary fucking hosts!
Wong and Strange are able to defeat the robots with relative ease, and Strange wonders,
Since when does Baron Mordo use robots?
I have no idea who Mordo is, but my boss is gonna love this.
Flashback time. As Nicodemus West leaves the hospital, Reginald Pavlish, the community guy from earlier who Strange declined, rolls out of the elevator and thanks him for destroying Dr. Strange. Nicodemus tells him that he did everything he could to save him, and Pavlish tries to shake his hand, and West is just like, you're very sick, you should get back in the hospital. Pavlish says that countless people like him will die because of Strange, but West says that for every one Strange turned away, he saved another 10, and Pavlish says,
I've come to accept that there may be alternatives to science, Nick, and I intend to explore them. I refuse to let go until I've watched Stephen Strange suffer as much as I have.
Back in the future of now, Brigand holds Linda hostage and says,
Careful, Strange. You've cast as much as a glance my way, and it's good night, nurse.
Then Linda fucking headbutts him. Wong then launches a piece of broken robot at Brigand's hand, forcing him to drop Hitler's handgun, which allows Strange to magically bound him. Strange orders him to reveal who he's working for, unless he wants a more aggressive approach.
Torture me all you want, old-timer. My boss used some mystical crap to keep me from revealing his identity. You'll never...
Sleep.
Strange walks over and helps out his dear Watson from the ground, and then he tells Wong to look after her until he returns. And as Strange falls down a portal, Linda asks where the hell he's going to now, and Wong tells her he's entering Brigand's mind. As Wong explains how it works, he has an attack and winces in pain, and Linda tells him that they need to get home now. Wong tells her that he neglected to refill his prescription of Time Lazar, and Linda says that she has some back at her clinic, but Wong declines, saying,
I'd rather have a generic equivalent, rather than asking you to incur additional expenses.
Wong, there is no generic version of Time Lazar. Timely has a patent on it. Meanwhile, in Brigand's Mindscape, Strange easily battles mental roadblocks when
Nightmare appears and orders him to leave his realm, and
Strange says,
You hired Brigand to steal my elixir? Since when does Nightmare involve himself in the affairs of the physical world?
Since I joined forces with the one who has taught me the worthlessness of energy without matter.
Don't look so surprised, Stephen. You remember dear old Dormammu, don't you?
Tell me, where is Umair, your rapscallion of a brother?
His whereabouts are not your concern.
I thought so. Umair is Dormammu's sister, and Nightmare rides a black steed, not a white one. Your false memories don't fool me. Tell me who you really work for.
Then all of Doctor Strange's villains appear from behind Brigand and they all run to attack him, but he quickly destroys the illusions and tells Brigand that if he doesn't reveal who he's working for, then Strange will just start having to erase his memories. Like learning how to walk, or tie his shoes, or talk, or breathe, maybe. Brigand quickly accepts the offer and creates a duplicate of the man in the white suit, Nicodemus West. Strange stares at the figure and says,
Who the hell is that?
It's like the fucking episode of Justice League when Lex Luthor and Flash switch bodies.
If nothing else, I can at least learn the Flash's secret identity. I have no idea who this is.
Fun fact, that episode came out about 8 months before this issue. Cut to some skyscraper. Nicodemus West attempts to have an emergency meeting with the overlords, and the receptionist tells him that they don't like it when he calls them that. They much rather prefer the actual term, which is the Board of Directors for Timely Pharmaceuticals. West enters the office and meets the board, who all sit in a sinisterly low-light loft, and they ask if the elixir can be mass-produced. But West tells them that it cannot be reverse-engineered in a lab, but a magician like Strange could likely duplicate it. So the fat overlord says that Strange and his friends must all be killed, and West is like, yeah, God forbid that the elixir doesn't get out to the public, right? Then they give him some horse shit. Humanity must be allowed to make discoveries at a natural pace, and treatments must be earned, not handed to us. Nicodemus is like, right, I'm sure it doesn't have anything to do with the fact that it would make us all lose our incredibly lucrative jobs. The overlords tell him that they aren't going to continue using Brigand. Instead, Nicodemus will use his own magic, and he says that he hasn't practiced actual dark arts in years. Unless you want to tell the world why you hung up your medical top hat for good, you will end our problem, or summon something that can. Back at wherever they are. Strange reemerges from Brigand's mind as Linda and Wong stand around. Strange explains the situation to the two and says that he believes West was the man who tried in vain to save his hands. He's not quite sure if that's who it is, though. He's like 90% sure that's who he is. And then he clutches his chest in pain. Linda yells at them for what they're doing to themselves, so Strange agrees to rest at her infirmary for a few hours. Then he releases the sleeping brigand from his fetters and cuffs, and then puts him into his own mind, and that's where Brigand's been ever since 2007. Later, the three are walking back to the clinic as the sun begins to rise. Wong wonders why West of all people would steal the elixir, and Strange says that they're now left with both a riddle and a mystery. Linda says that they should definitely let other heroes know about this so that there can be more than, at least 2 people who are in critical condition to be able to stop it. Then they round a corner when they are basked in a bright orange light of Linda's building ablaze. Strange says that this isn't the work of some normal arsonist, and Linda's like, "Oh yeah? How would you know, Sherlock?" Then Linda turns around to see a nearly indescribable, massive eldritch abomination rolling or climbing over buildings. Strange informs her that is the Maricant Hellguard, and it has killed every sorcerer supreme who's confronted it since the 1500s. Jesus, what the fuck were the guys doing before that worked? Strange then dismisses his illusionary attire as he orders Wong to get Night Nurse as far from this position as possible. Wong asks what Strange is going to do, and he says,
"Defy expectations."
And he flies upward towards the demon. Wong then asks Night Nurse to kindly run to the nearest subway entrance while he attempts to distract the beast, and then he runs off into the smoke as he apologizes for his oath he took to his master. Strange flies high above the monster and says,
"Face me, you glorified lapdog. You may have slain my predecessors, but that was deep within the bowels of Hades. Tonight, we battle in my realm. Welcome to New York City." Then the Hellguard rips the cloak of levitation off of Strange, causing him to plummet into a pile of garbage. Then it fucking eats the cloak and the Eye of Agamotto. Wong catches up with Strange as he climbs out of the trash, and Strange tells him to leave, but Wong is grabbed by the creature in one of its many tentacles. And Strange says, "If you hurt him, I will show you suffering unlike anything your master has ever dreamed of."
Then the Night Nurse runs in and yells at the monster and also gets grabbed. And Strange is like,
"Oh god, this is why I never joined the Avengers."
Wong pleads with his master to just leave, but Strange says,
"You of all people should know that my arsenal grows with every investigation, Wong. And if this flaming abomination continues to wield the power of evil, then it's high time I return fire."
Strange brandishes Hitler's handgun and aims it at the creature. He attempts to steady his constantly shaking hands and fires it, shooting out the giant eye of the monster before it reels back in pain and slumps to the ground. Then Strange banishes the gun, turning it into fireflies. Linda and Wong are able to crawl out of the monster's grasp, and Linda asks how Strange did that. Strange tells her,
"I simply stared into your eyes, Watson. I must say, your presence is remarkably calming."
Then the cloak and the eye burst out of the creature, and they return to Strange as Night Nurse asks what's next. Strange says that he can follow the summoning trail to whoever is helping Nicodemus, and then he tells the two not to come with him, and Linda convinces him again by saying that she and Wong are far safer with him anyway. So he opens a portal and says,
"Once more then, unto the breach."
And from his magical mirror, Nicodemus watches in horror as he realizes that Strange is coming for him. And as the trio come through the portal into Nicodemus's vault, he traps them. Strange says,
"Impossible. I don't care how many ancient artifacts you have. No dabbler can imprison me. Where did you learn to cast the emerald bands of Exodore?"
"From the same man who taught you, Stephen."
Nicodemus then retells his story. Months after Strange's operation, and after Strange had vanished completely, his old patients began to get worse and die. So, eventually Nicodemus developed an alcohol addiction to cope with what he thought were his own failings. Then he set out to search for Strange, and eventually he heard rumors of someone known as the Ancient One. The Ancient One told West that he would no longer train any more apprentices, but West was like, "Oh, come on, man, I'm just looking for a guy. His name is Stephen Strange." And the Ancient One's like,
My disciple. He left me days ago. Why do you wish to find him?
I want to help him. And the Ancient One's like,
Really? Are you serious?
and then the Ancient One looks into Nicodemus's mind before saying,
Your quest is misguided, Nicodemus West. I guess I'll train you.
Strange then calls him a liar and says that the Ancient One would never do anything like that and not tell him. West says that the best teachers make all their students feel unique while knowing that most of them will fail. It's why there are second-string quarterbacks and understudies. And then he says that the Ancient One was never really sure if Stephen would survive long enough anyway. And then he pulls out his Ancient One coin, good at any Ancient One locations near you, and says, "You don't think when a similarly qualified candidate strolled up to him, literally to his door, he wouldn't take a chance? I mean, really, you're not pompous enough to believe that you were the only one, are you, Stephen?" Then he continues his story. Basically, he got bored with learning from an old man, so he dropped out of magic college and got a job at his local town, where he saved a girl on the brink of death. Or so he thought. He eventually returned to his hospital, I guess, because it doesn't really say how long he's gone for, but I guess if you're a doctor, you can just come and go as you please. And he also finds Pavlish, who is apparently somehow still alive, hanging from the last string of life. Nicodemus tells him that he can save him now, and so he begins casting a spell, and then Reginald Pavlish begins to reform and heal, but then he keeps going, becoming bulbous, red, and tumor-ridden until his head explodes. So Nicodemus went to go turn himself into the police, but 2 members of Timely stopped him and offered him a job because they knew mysticism was growing in popularity, so they wanted like insurance of a magic user so they could jump on that bandwagon. Suddenly Wong gasps in pain, either because of his debilitating medical condition or because he was bored from the story, I don't know. Then Strange easily breaks out of the emerald bands and slams Nicodemus's face into the mirror. Strange orders him to give up the elixir before he strangles him, but Nicodemus says that he can't, and that Strange has no idea what he's dealing with.
Dr. Hilt's research only scratched the surface. I've told you this because I know you'll understand. The liquid isn't just a cure for cancer. It's a remedy for
every single disease on the planet. That's right. It's a cure-all for everything. Nicodemus explains that you could eliminate every single illness, and Strange... Oh, holy shit! Why does he look so creepy here? Wait, he's so pale! He looks like a dead body, a bad mortician dressed up. Anyway, Strange is like,
Precisely, we could save billions.
Then Nicodemus reminds him that if every last health problem was wiped out at once, the world would be stripped bare by overpopulation, even quicker. Then we'd have to cull half the population.
So it's perfectly balanced, as all things should be.
Nicodemus tells Strange that his heart is in the right place, and then shoots him with a magical spell. Strange begins bleeding and falls to the ground, and Night Nurse calls to him, and Strange is like,
I'm fine, Night Nurse.
but she says, "Stephen, it's Wong. He's dead." Strange says as he crawls to her,
This is a cerebral edema from Wong's tumor. The pressure has led to a compression of his brainstem, causing a loss of...
Then Linda yells, "I know what's happening to him, doctor. I don't know if I could save him. He doesn't have a pulse." Nicodemus says that he's sorry for Wong's death and tells them that there's a crash cart, like over there somewhere. Then Strange, enraged, bounds and gags Nicodemus before he walks over to Linda and dead Wong. Strange says that they need to get him to a hospital, but Linda tells them he'll never survive the trip, even though, like, why can't he just make a portal to a hospital? Whatever. Then they turn around and Nicodemus is gone. Strange says that he's gone to destroy the elixir, and once he's done, he'll return to them. Then Linda says that she'll do all that she can to get Wong's heart beating again, but even then he'd be a shell of his former self. Then she suggests, maybe, just maybe, they could use the elixir? Cut to the executive washroom. Nicodemus prepares to pour the elixir down the drain of the sink, and then Strange walks out of one of the stalls and says,
Go ahead and pour it down, Nicodemus. If you do, know that the next thing spilling out will be your blood.
Strange asks why he still hasn't disposed of the elixir when he's had ample time to do so, and Nicodemus says,
I had to run tests to make sure it was as dangerous as I thought. Enchanted potions like this are poison, Stephen. I swear to you, I've dedicated my life to ending sickness, but it has to be done by natural means.
Like artificial hearts, CAT scans. Every new advancement feels like magic, the first generation to utilize it, but that doesn't mean it shouldn't be used. The reason you haven't flushed it is because you realize how much it could help humanity. You know it wouldn't hurt anyone. That thought must scare you to death. Because if my potion works, it means not all magic is harmful. It means the last patient you tried to save with a spell wasn't killed by sorcery, but by your incompetence as a sorcerer.
You have no idea what you're talking about!
I forgive you, Nicodemus. I forgave you years ago. It was my recklessness that cost me the use of my hands, not your negligence as a physician. But I cannot forgive self-delusion. All doctors make mistakes in their career, as do mystics like us. But it's our duty to own up to those errors.
Then Nicodemus opens a portal and says, "You know, the Ancient Ones said that you'd be a force for great good in your life, but also the cause of much suffering before you died. Just know that I'm doing you a favor, Steve." And then he runs through it and disappears. On the rooftop, the clouds begin rolling in and lightning strikes in the distance as Nicodemus's portal opens and he runs out. Then he turns around and hears,
You can run to the ends of the earth, but your failures always have a way of catching up with you.
I did everything I could for you, but I guess it's time to call it.
What, you plan to turn into a purple dragon while I take the form of a germ to catch you? Please. Do you honestly want to have a wizard's duel with
Me?
"Not in the least." Then Nicodemus summons the Sands of Nisanti and says,
I've forgotten many of the incantations the old man taught us, but not the ones that count. For the next 3 minutes, neither of us will be able to use any magic in any form, and that's all the time I need to end you.
Then Strange agrees, even though, like, fucking Wong is dead or dying. I guess the elixir can cure death. Is death technically an illness? I assume so. Anyway, Strange takes off his cloak and removes his gloves to reveal his fucked up hands as the brain begins to fall. Then he says,
What are you waiting for?
"Give me your best." Ah! Fuck my jaw! Jesus! Ah! Why did you kick me? Sorry, that's where your stitches are, right? Oh God, my stitches!
Oh, come on, Stephen. At least have the dignity to put up a fight.
Oh, I will. I was just waiting for you to waste your energy first.
Strange then kicks Nicodemus in the stomach, and as he wrenches in pain, Strange takes a fighting stance taught to him by Wong. Nicodemus goes in for a punch, but Strange grabs him by the arm and flips him over. As Nicodemus lies on his back in a puddle, Strange walks towards him and warns him to stay down. Nicodemus then grabs the elixir from his coat, stands up, and starts to run away. Then lightning strikes close to him, I guess, and it blinds Nicodemus, causing him to fall off the rooftop. Strange attempts to go and cast a spell, but the 7,423 grains of sand continue to fall from the hourglass, and Stephen is unable to use his magic to save Nicodemus West's life. The cloak returns to him, and Stephen hovers down to the street where Nicodemus's body lies halfway on the drenched road, and the elixir lies smashed next to him. And then an ethereal voice says, "Well, lucky you. A single drop left. Decisions.
Nicodemus?
My astral projection, at least. I cast it the moment before impact. I know what you're thinking. With a few hours and a good-sized cauldron back at your sanctum, you can multiply that drop into enough for every person on the planet. Or you could forget them and use it to revive this poor wretch.
It's not fair. I can't condemn the world to save my friend.
And yet, you took an oath never to withhold treatments from patients under your care. I suppose I'm about to find out whether my decisions have redeemed my soul or condemned it. All you can do is ask which choice will allow you to look at yourself in the mirror come morning. Cut to the Sanctum Sanctorum. Wong's body lies motionless. As Linda says, he looks so peaceful.
He should be. He's been asleep for 24 hours straight.
Then Wong wakes up. Stephen tells him that his cure is in complete remission, and Wong says,
You saved my life?
No, not all me. It was the night nurse who kept you stable long enough for me to deliver the final drop of elixir.
Strange says for Wong to not worry about it being the last drop and says,
It was you who saved my life last night, just as I'm sure you'll save it many times again. It was the very least I owed you.
Then Night Nurse drags him out of the room to patch up his wounds and let Wong rest. As she patches him up, Linda says, "You did the right thing last night. You and I both know we can't save everyone. The best that doctors can do is take care of people who entrust their lives to us. Leave the search for cures to drug companies."
Oh, you mean like timely?
Then Night Nurse says, "Actually, I think their operation is about to draw to a close." And she pulls out a memo that incriminates almost all the higher-ups of Timely. Steven says,
My dear Watson, I'm so happy I could hardly thank you enough. I'd like to make you an offer. As I'm largely responsible for the destruction of your former hospice, I was thinking maybe you could continue your practice here. Despite my recent home invasion, the sanctum is unparalleled with privacy and security.
Linda says it's a very lovely statement and asks if he'd be okay with bloody scrubs all over his magic crap, and he says that she has his word. Then they both kiss. The end. Hey, what's this? Something after I say the end? That's right. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like and or comment if you really liked it, and let me know what you thought. And if you have any suggestions for books I should do in the future. And if you really enjoyed this video, subscribe for new comic-related videos every other Monday. Yep, that's right. I've decided to begin to advertise myself on my own videos.